beyond his fence. A great heave of bramble, the oranging banks of the sandpit, the woods and the pinky brick flats into which the shouts of children were sucked as the streetlights flickered and blackbirds rattled their alarms into the scent of honey. He liked the dusk. When the spent day gave up its light and life to the darkening sky, and all the smells came out, he'd stand stock still on his path, drawing the cool into his scorched chest, watching the clouds dissolve, smudges of white that gleamed gold and faded imperceptibly to charcoal as they died around the rosy moon, waiting for the prettiest stars to prick the blue above the fireglow of the city. On the hillock above the sandy hollow, he could see a familiar form crouched in front of a down-flecked willow. A square sooty patch with a pink blotch of face, crouched and still, facing down the unkempt path into a place hidden by the briars, where a spring muddied the ground and leaked into the copse beyond. He'd missed the boy arrive, passing silently, only his head visible above the leaning fence, and then stalking cautiously up the slope, creeping and eventually crawling to his dingy spot. He must have been there for 20 minutes or so. He came when the evening flared and fell, and now in the squinty dim he was only visible because the old man knew where he would be. If he turned away, he'd vanish into the twilight. And then he could just hear them, the faint yips and whinnies, quick in the stillness, piercing as sharply as the stars above the revving engines and crunching gears of the last buses grinding up Woodenmill Lane and gasping in relief at their stop on the hill. He tilted his ear to the chips and chirrups, and by the time he turned back, the figure of the boy had blurred away. He was gone, like everyone had gone. The Foxes, May 1973. Escaping out of my bedroom window was quite tricky. I had to trampoline over the pillow decor of myself, moulded under the blankets, without distorting its slumbering form, sit on the narrow sill whilst I closed the frame behind me, then stretch my feet over to the edge of the roof above the saucepan cupboard, and with one shove bridge this divide, slide down its clattering tiles, roll over onto my belly and hang on the flexing gutter to drop with a satisfying slap onto the cement outside the back door. The physical sizes and distances between the various elements meant that such a feat could not be successfully negotiated by anyone too small or too big. But at the age of 9, this mission was not impossible. There was also an accompanying behavioural strategy to be implemented well in advance of the acrobatics. At tea time, 6 o'clock, I would announce an illness in embryonic form, a mild nausea, a slight lethargy, symptoms that I would gradually exaggerate until around 8 o'clock, when at its peak I would be so sick or exhausted that I would have to go to bed early. I cunningly imagined that such an announcement would be a welcome revelation from a hyperactive child, normally still irascibly avoiding his bedroom until 10 and any sleep until midnight. I pictured my parents heaving an enormous sigh of relief and seizing the opportunity to bicker even more venomously. But years later, they told me that they'd seen through my antics from the outset and took turns to wait up for my noisy scramble back up the tiles. Apparently, the note on the door that read, "Please do not come in, I'm very tired/sick, and do not want to miss school Tuesday, crossed out, Wednesday, crossed out, Thursday, crossed out, Friday, don't worry, I'm okay, good night, drawing of a fox," was a dead giveaway. From my hidey hole up on the hill that sloped up to the council estate, I was shielded from the path, which fed 2 sandy lines down to a gully where they divided a huge hedgehog of brambles from some alder trees growing in the wet culvert at the edge of the woods. Beyond was the field, a golden mane of hay dotted with bushy oaks, and beyond that a galaxy of bedroom and bathroom lights, tiny yellow rectangles and squares sprinkled over the ashtray of the city, orange chains of streetlights, car headlights, buses disappearing behind dark blocks of empty offices, crowded around empty car parks, horns and the squealing brats and screaming women in the smelly flats. After the sun